Hi, my name is Genie, and I am a goal-setting coach and an author of Dreams to Reality, the book. And this is the Dreams to Reality, a podcast. So you're here because you want to know more about manifestation. What is it about? I'd like to remind you that there are 4 keys. Clarity, clearing, subconscious reprogramming, and aligned action. So when you are clear about what you want, so you have clarity about what you want, you use the different tools to clear what gets in the way, and you retrain or reprogram your subconscious mind with the new program or the new directions that you want it to do for you, and then you take aligned action. So the topic for today is, this is why the reason you're stuck, and it's the unconscious agenda. So there are 3 levels of mind, or they call it Colette Stryker, who is the founder of the Make All Things Possible method, using the superconscious mind. She believes, along with her mentor, I think it was George Flint, so they're both psychotherapists, and they believe that there are 3 memories, 3 levels of mind. There's the superconscious, there's the unconscious or subconscious mind, and then there is the conscious mind. So the conscious mind is only aware of, maybe when we became conscious around 3-4 years old until 7 years old, until today, and the subconscious mind is a memory or a part of our mind that is aware or has been there since our birth until the present moment, and that's where the programs are added, the conditioning, like our upbringing, our values. They can be programmed in the subconscious mind or unconscious mind. And then there's the superconscious mind, which are the higher levels of consciousness. It is the part of our mind that is connected to the field of infinite possibilities. It's connected to the field of information around us, and it is connected to our ancestors, at least 7 generations before us, maybe even more. So why we're stuck is most likely because we are not conscious of what we're not conscious of. We're stuck because of our unconscious agenda. So the subconscious mind, the different levels of mind actually has different agendas. So the conscious mind, it always wants to, it wants the ideal, like, oh, I want that, I want this, I want that. But it's not really aware of, the possibilities. Sometimes it can get stuck. It only sees patterns from before, and it can only see like a certain percentage of like the future. It can speculate, but most of the time it is limited because it's only usually present moment or the past. And then there's the unconscious mind that's been around since we were born until the present moment. It's where all the programming is stored. Let's say you grew up in a poor family, so you have the beliefs of being poor, or if you grew up in a rich family, maybe you have beliefs that are, the rich mentality. So you grew up with that one. So that is in the unconscious mind. But the thing about most of us, if not all of us, not all of us has good programming, right? From childhood, most of the time, unless you're part of the 1%, most of the time we grew up with, the typical middle class, working class upbringing with, with beliefs that we trade our time for money. So, but anyway, the reason why we're stuck, especially if we have a lofty goal, is because of the unconscious agenda or the subconscious mind. Because the subconscious mind, once it we program information into it, it automates things. It becomes automatic. And if we're stuck in one area, it's basically the unconscious that is not really at fault but responsible, because it wants to retain that program. Like, it wants to retain that status quo. It wants homeostasis. So, and it's usually it wants homeostasis, it wants balance, it wants things to be uncomplicated. And even if, you know, what we programmed into it through our experiences, childhood traumas, or whatever we program into our unconscious mind, the unconscious agenda will try to keep that, because it wants to keep us safe, because it believes that when we add something new to it, that might not be safe, and it just wants to keep the status quo, because we survived from that, you know, point A to point B. So we survived it, even if, you know, the trauma was, you know, not ideal situation, but because we survived it, so the unconscious mind will still try to retain or maintain the status quo. And this is like a really not a normal example, but just to highlight how the unconscious agenda works, and sometimes just to highlight how extreme it goes, you know. So basically, I think you've heard about, you know, people, especially women, that have had you know, abusive relationships, but then they still go back to that abusive relationship. That's the unconscious agenda. So this is an example. So my sister, she's a lawyer, and one time she said they had a client or potential client, someone came in and said, hey, we have a client for you, can you take this lady? So she was beaten black and blue, and according to my sister's description, she was bruised, like black. It was black, not even blue, you know, it was black and black. And from her face and all over her body, she was just full of bruises. And apparently her husband has been beating her up for over 20 years. So my sister, you know, of course they're lawyers, you know, she works for law firm. They wanted to help this woman because this is, you know, abuse. This is domestic abuse. This is physical abuse. And, you know, it's extreme. But, you know, after talking to the woman, and she said, yeah, you know, it's finally time for me to, like, you know, sue him and, like, to get away from him. So I'm hiring lawyers and stuff. But apparently it was the friend that tried to hire the lawyer, or my sister's law firm. Anyway, so at first she was, you know, she was saying like, yeah, I'm ready. You know, my kids are grown. I'm ready to get out of this abusive relationship. And I don't know the time frame exactly, but when she came back, she actually said no. Eventually she decided like, no, I'm not going to press charges. I'm not going to leave my husband, because she's been living with this for 20 years, over 20 years. And that is just an extreme example of the unconscious agenda. So for us, it's like, why would she go back to her husband who was beating her black and black, not even black and blue, and just beating her up all the way from her, you know, the top of her head, her face, until like the tips of her toes, everything was just covered in bruises. Why would she even go back? And because to her unconscious mind, although she lived through this trauma, she actually survived the trauma. And the unconscious mind, in its extreme form, and it's an extreme what you call that, purpose, wants to keep the status quo. It's like, yeah, you survived that event, and even if that event was not the ideal and didn't make sense, we're still gonna maintain the status quo because you survived it. And so that is what our unconscious agenda is all about. The subconscious mind, although to us it doesn't make sense, but to the unconscious mind, it has a different agenda, and it wants to, it's for survival. If you survived an event, no matter how horrific, even if you were beaten black and blue, you still survived it, and it wants to keep the status quo. So that's why we have to use other levels of mind, because unfortunately, try as you might, the conscious mind, she did it. Like, she went to see a lawyer. She consciously went to see a lawyer. She knew it was wrong, but still her will was not enough, because you need a different level of mind, which is the higher consciousness, the superconscious, which actually sees everything. It sees all the patterns in our life, and it actually knows the starting point. And I don't know what the starting point of this woman is. Maybe she has an unconscious belief that she doesn't deserve to be treated well. Maybe that was her upbringing. She grew up, maybe she was also abused physically as a child. We don't really know. Only her superconscious or higher self knows. So when you use the clearing method that I use, and it's really amazing, but it's not the only method that I use, of course, but it's an amazing tool. It actually is, magnetic recode, where you actually tell, it's through a series of commands that you tell your superconscious mind to find that starting point where this belief came in that has allowed things to continue, So in this woman's case, let's just say, for example, maybe when she was 5 years old, she felt that, yeah, you know what, I got beaten up by my mom or dad, and I survived it, and it's okay to be beaten up as long as I survive. And so maybe that was the starting point. Or, yeah, I don't feel worthy of respect. Maybe that was her belief. So whatever it is, our higher consciousness knows what it is, and it can actually pinpoint that, hey, that's what's blocking you, that's what's keeping you stuck. In her case, though, domestic abuse, she may need to go to, so Colette Stryker, she's more of the psychotherapy, so she may need to see someone like Colette Stryker that practices this method for psychotherapy purposes. But for me, I don't really delve in trauma, because I'm just a goal setting coach. I just like, what's your goal? What gets in the way? Let's get there. Let's reprogram, retrain your mind, and let us just take action, like aligned action. So in her case, it's a little bit extreme. It's still the same technology, using your superconscious mind, but with a different approach, of course. So I don't know where this woman is, but I'm just, it's real life scenario, actually. It actually happened, just to point out how extreme our unconscious agendas are. So what is your unconscious agenda, do you think? And unless you use a higher level of your mind, which is your superconscious higher self, super ego, unless you use a different perspective of your mind, you will not be able to uncover it. So that's why also, like, I meditate. I've been meditating for 15 years, and that actually is similar to the process. But in my case, it's more like I use that type of meditation to access the higher consciousness for problem solving. This one, the magnetic recode, is for the creative process. So there's a difference. The meditation I do is more for problem solving, and this one, magnetic recode, is to create something new, or to clear what gets in the way so that you can achieve your goals. So it's hugely different, but at the same time very similar, but still using that level of mind that we sometimes rarely use. We do use it sometimes in prayer for people that are not prayerful. I use it all the time. My higher consciousness, I use it for meditation daily, to keep myself centered, grounded, and just to see things from different perspective. Anyway, if you want to learn more, check out my YouTube. Check out the previous episodes that I have on this podcast. I'm also on TikTok at Mystic Genie 88. I'll put it on the show notes below. Mystic Genie, MYSTIC, Genie, GENIE 88. I also have a stand store. It's the store where I have my meditations, and I have my course, Dreams to Reality, the 4 keys, and I talk more about how the unconscious mind works, how to reprogram the subconscious mind. It's a whole package. Depending on when you're listening to this one, it may or may not be on sale. I may try to figure out how to write a code, sale code or something in there. I'll figure it out, but for now, I'll be increasing the price soon, but do check it out just in case you still get the discounted price. But normally it's $77 for the whole thing, with a meditation, with a workbook, with the course, and it's like, so you get a lot of things with it, value. It's 4 modules, basically covers the 4 keys, and then has a meditation, a workbook. I call it it's a workbook where you try to gain more clarity on what you really want or want to achieve, if you want that. And then there's the action planner, which for me is what I use every day. And I have like a secret sauce there. I'll discuss it in another video, or not video, but podcast. I'm so used to this being on YouTube anyway. Yeah. And that's it. This is the reason why you're stuck, and it's the unconscious agenda. I might even just feature this as well on YouTube, with videos and stuff. But for now, this is audio only. Thank you for listening, and do write me if you have any questions, special topics you want me to cover. homeofgenie@gmail.com, HOMEOF, genie@gmail.com. Thank you for listening.